The gate to the Harlan Ranch had been padlocked for 3 years, and everybody in Dustfall County knew why. Cole Harlan did not want visitors. He did not want neighbors dropping by with casseroles, or preachers coming to check on his soul, or countymen asking about the back taxes on the south pasture. He wanted his 1,200 acres, his 600 head of cattle, his 2 ranch hands who kept their mouths shut, us in the silence that had settled over the property like a second sky since his father died, and left him with everything except a reason to talk to anyone. He was 34 years old, unmarried, rich by Dustfall standards, which meant he owned land that actually produced something. His cattle went to auction every fall and came back as numbers in a bank account that he barely looked at. He wore the same 3 shirts on rotation. He ate beans from a can on most nights, unless one of his hands, the old Pete Garza, took pity on him and left a plate of something real on the porch step. The town of Dustfall was 11 miles east down a dirt road that turned to gravel about a mile before the gas station. Cole drove in once a week for feed, nails, and whatever else the ranch needed. He parked his truck outside Calloway's Hardware, loaded what he came for, and left without stopping for coffee or conversation. People had stopped trying to pull him into talk about 3 years back. They respected it now. Or maybe they had just given up. It was on a Tuesday in late October when the locked gate stopped working as a warning. Cole was fixing the east fence line 3 miles from the main house when he heard a vehicle on the road. Not unusual. The road past his gate connected to another ranch further north, and occasionally a truck passed through. But this one stopped. He heard the engine cut, then silence, then the sound of something rattling. Someone was shaking his locked gate. He took his time walking back. He was not a man who moved fast for strangers. When he came around the stand of post oak trees and saw the vehicle on the other side of the fence, he stopped. It was a battered blue pickup, older than anything he would trust on a highway, loaded down in the bed with equipment he could not immediately identify. Ropes, metal poles, a rolled canvas tarp, and what looked like 3 saddles stacked sideways. Standing at his gate, Mika, both hands wrapped around the iron bars, like she was either fixing to shake them off the hinges or was testing their strength for some other purpose, was a woman he had never seen before. She was not from Dustfall. He knew every woman in Dustfall by face, if not by name. This one was road-worn in a way that meant days, not hours. Her boots had seen serious country. The dust on her jacket was a different color than the local red clay, more of a pale gray, which meant she had come from the limestone country to the west or further. She saw him coming and did not let go of the gate. "This is private property," he said. He said it the way he said most things, flat, no particular hostility, just information. "I can read," she said. She had a voice that did not apologize for itself. "I also read that the Harlan place was looking to hire a wrangler last spring. That posting is 6 months old. Still need one?" He looked at her. Nux looked at the truck, looked at the saddles. 3 saddles meant she had horses somewhere, or had recently. The ropes were not decorative. The hands holding his gate bars were the hands of someone who had been working livestock since before she was old enough to argue about it. "Positions filled," he said. She did not move. She looked past him at the pasture, at the fence line he had been working, at the post oak trees and the brown October grass running out toward the ridge line. She was doing the math on something, reading the land the way you read a face when you want to know what it is not saying. "That fence you came from," she said. 3 strands of wire and one of them loose. I could see the sag from here. I was in the middle of fixing it." "You were fixing it alone." He said nothing. Pete Garza quit in August, she said. I heard it at the feed store in Red Rock 2 weeks ago. Man named Lou said you've been running this place short-handed since summer, and whatever hand you've got left is over 60 years old and has a bad right shoulder. Cole looked at her for a long moment. Who are you? He said. Nora Dill, she said. I've worked 4 ranches in 3 years. I can break horses, pull calves, fix fence, brand, doctor minor wounds on cattle, and I cook better than whatever you've been feeding yourself. She glanced at his jacket pocket, where the top of a crumpled granola bar wrapper was visible, which I'm guessing isn't much. He pulled the granola bar wrapper out and looked at it like he had forgotten it was there. The wind moved through the post oaks. Somewhere down the south pasture, one of his cattle made a sound that carried the particular tiredness of an animal that had been walking all day. You got references? He said. 3. All working ranches. You can call every one of them. She reached into her jacket and pulled out a folded piece of paper and held it through the bars of the gate. I don't steal. I don't drink on the job. I work from before sunup to after sundown, and I don't complain about the hours because I knew what the hours were before I signed on. Cole took the paper, unfolded it, read the 3 names and numbers written in handwriting that was small and precise and left no excess space on the page. He folded it back up. Where are you staying tonight? He said. Haven't figured that out yet? Red Rock is 40 miles back. I know where Red Rock is. The wind moved again. A hawk turned a slow circle above the ridgeline. Cole looked at the gate, then at the truck, then at the piece of paper in his hand. I'll make 3 calls, he said. If all 3 of them say what you say they'll say, you can start Monday. Today is Tuesday. I know what day it is. I can start tomorrow. He looked at her. She looked back. Neither of them was the type to fill silence with noise. There's a bunkhouse, he said. It's clean. 1 room, 1 cot, wood stove. You'd be the only one in it. Pete's old room, other side of the wall, is empty. He paused. Lou, my other hand, sleeps in the house, separate wing. He's 62 and his hearing isn't what it was. I'm not worried about Lou's hearing, she said. I'm telling you the arrangement. I understand the arrangement, she said. Do you want me to be worried about something? Cole unlocked the gate. No, he said. I want you to fix that east fence before the light goes. Nora Dill drove her battered truck through the gate without another word. Cole locked it behind her, because that was what he did, and walked back toward the east fence line. He did not look back, but he listened until the sound of her truck engine faded into the property and became part of the ranch. The way sounds do when they belong. And the 3 calls took him 40 minutes. All 3 ranch owners said the same thing in 3 different sets of words. She worked hard. She didn't cause trouble. She left on her own terms when the job was done or when it was clear the ranch couldn't keep her on. One of them, a woman named Elda from down near the New Mexico border, said something that stuck to Cole in the way words sometimes do when you are not expecting them to. Nora Dill, Elda said, is the kind of worker you want. She's also the kind of person who carries something heavy and doesn't talk about it. You won't get her history unless she decides to give it. And she decides based on whether she trusts you. A pause. Takes a while. Cole thanked her and hung up. He sat at the kitchen table with the piece of paper in front of him. The house was quiet the way houses get when they have been quiet for too long, and the quiet has started to have a shape. He looked at the paper, looked at the window. The bunkhouse light was on, the yellow square of it steady against the October dark. She was already there, already inside, already part of the shape of the ranch in a way that the empty bunkhouse had not been for months. Cole ate a bowl of beans and did not think about what Elda had said. Or he tried not to. The next morning, Nora was at the east fence before he was. She was already pulling the loose wire taut when he came over the rise with the post driver and the wire staples. She looked up, nodded once, and went back to work. No good morning, no commentary, just the fence getting fixed. They worked side by side for 4 hours without talking about anything that was not the fence. Lou came out around noon with coffee in a battered thermos and looked at the two of them, and then at the fence line, and then at Cole, with an expression that said several things he was too smart to say out loud. "Fence is looking better," Lou said. "It is," Cole said. Lou poured coffee for all three of them, handed the cups out, and walked back to the main house without pushing his luck. Nora drank her coffee standing up, looking out at the ridgeline. "How many head you running right now?" she said. 614, he said. "Fall auction took 62 last month." She nodded, turned the math over. "Oh, so you're running thin for this acreage." "I know. Spring calving going to change that, if the winter's not too hard." She looked at the ridgeline again. The sky above it was the blue of old denim, hard and cold at the edges. "It'll be hard," she said. Not a question. "Yeah," he said. They went back to the fence. She did not ask him anything about himself, not about why the bunkhouse had been empty, not about Pete Garza quitting, not about the 3 years of padlocked gates and once-a-week trips to town and canned beans eaten alone at a kitchen table. She just worked. And Cole, who had gotten very good at not noticing things, noticed that he could breathe easier with the sound of someone else working nearby. He noticed it the way you notice when a noise you have been hearing for so long that you stopped registering it finally stops, like the silence had been the noise all along. He did not say anything about this. And he just picked up the post driver and moved to the next fence post. And Nora moved with him, and the east fence got fixed, and the October light came down thin and gold over the ridge, and the cattle on the south pasture moved in their slow way toward water. It was a regular day on the Harlan Ranch. Except it was not. The week that followed had the rhythm of hard work and few words, which was the only rhythm Cole understood anymore. Bust and Nora fit into it the way a good tool fits a hand that has been empty too long. She was up before Lou, who was up before sunrise. Cole could hear her in the barn before the sky turned gray, the sound of the stall doors, the low voice she used with the horses, not sweet-talking exactly, more like someone stating facts to an animal that deserved honesty. He had 4 horses, 2 quarter horses for working cattle, an older mare named Biscuit who mostly watched things from the corral with the air of someone who had seen too much to be surprised, and a young paint gelding that had been giving Lou trouble for 2 weeks because the gelding had decided at some point that he did not trust men. Nora had the paint eating from her hand by the 3rd morning. Lou watched this from the fence rail, and then looked at Cole with that same expression from the east fence line, the one that had several things in it that he was too wise to say. "Don't," Cole said. "Didn't say a word," Lou said. The gelding's name was Decker. Cole had not named him Decker. The name had come with the horse from a sale in Abilene, and it had always seemed to Cole like a name that was trying too hard. But Decker had kept it, the way horses keep the names they arrive with even when the names don't fit. Nora called him Deck. Cole heard her use it on the 4th morning, and something about the shortened name, the casual ease of it, the way it assumed a relationship that was only 4 days old, made him stop in the barn doorway longer than he needed to. "You ride him?" he said. Nora looked up from picking out Deck's left front hoof. Not yet. He's not ready. Lou's been saying that for 2 weeks. Lou was right. She set the hoof pick down, stood up, ran a hand along the gelding's neck. He had a bad experience. Something with a man, probably more than one. He needs to decide this is different before he'll carry weight. Cole leaned against the doorframe. You always know that? About horses? She looked at him for a moment with that straight, unembarrassed look she had, the one that did not perform anything. You learn to read what an animal is protecting, she said. Same as anything. She went back to the hoof. Cole went to get the quarter horses tacked for the morning ride. He thought about what she said for most of the next 3 hours, out across the north pasture checking water troughs, and he could not have told anyone why it stayed with him the way it did. The trouble started on Friday afternoon. Cole was in the equipment shed, rebuilding the hydraulic line on the hay baler, when he heard the truck. Not Nora's battered blue one, which was parked by the bunkhouse. This was a heavier engine. Just the kind that came with a newer truck and a man who wanted people to know he drove a newer truck. Cole heard it come up the drive, and then he heard it stop, and then he heard a voice he had not heard in 8 months. Wade Pritchard. Wade owned the Ladder's 6 ranch to the southeast, which was larger than Cole's spread, and which Wade made sure everyone knew was larger. He was 40 years old, twice divorced, and had a habit of showing up at ranches when the owner was busy and the help was visible, and he could do his looking and talking without anyone pushing back. Cole wiped his hands on a rag and came out of the equipment shed. Nora was at the stock tank near the corral, clearing an algae buildup with a long-handled brush. Wade was standing at the fence rail, watching her with his thumbs hooked in his belt and his hat pushed back on his head. Pritchard, Cole said. Wade turned, he grinning the grin that he kept ready for situations like this. Harlan, didn't know you'd hired on new help? You need something? Wade glanced back at Nora, who had not stopped working. Just stopped to say hello to a neighbor. Been a while. 8 months, Cole said. What do you need, Wade? Wade pulled his eyes off the stock tank and looked at Cole with the expression of a man who had just remembered he had come with an actual reason. The water line along our shared fence, in north corner. It's been running off my side, and I think the break's on your property. I'll look at it Monday. It's been losing water for 2 weeks, Cole. Then it can wait 2 more days. Cole looked at him steadily. You'll have my answer Monday. Wade looked at him, looked at Nora again. She was pulling algae out of the tank with the efficiency of someone who had done this exact task in worse conditions on worse days and found it neither interesting nor beneath her. No, nice paint gelding, Wade said. New? Bought him in May. Spirited? Not anymore, Cole said. Wade nodded, slow, the way men nod when they are storing information they were not supposed to receive. He tipped his hat, got back in his truck, and drove out. Cole watched the truck until the dust settled. Nora had not stopped working, had not looked up, had not changed her pace by a single beat. Wade Pritchard, Cole said. Not quite to her, not quite to himself. I know who Wade Pritchard is, she said. She lifted another wad of algae from the tank. Red Rock has opinions about Wade Pritchard. What kind of opinions? She looked at Cole then, and there was something in her face that was not quite amusement and not quite warning, somewhere between the two. The expression of someone who has been around long enough to see the same kinds of men, in the same kinds of moods, in the same kinds of situations. The kind that are correct, she said. Cole looked at the road where the dust was still settling. Yeah, he said. He went back to the hydraulic line, but he thought about Wade Pritchard's eyes on Nora at the stock tank and the specific quality of the man's stillness, the way predatory interest looks when it is wearing the costume of casual curiosity. And something in Cole's chest pulled tight in a way that had nothing to do with the busted hydraulic fitting in his hand. He put it away and kept working. The fitting was not going to fix itself. Neither, he was beginning to understand, was anything else. The first hard freeze came early, the way Nora had said it would. Dropping in on a Sunday night with no particular announcement, just a cold that moved in off the high plains and settled on the dust-fall country like it had been meaning to come for weeks and had finally cleared its schedule. Cole was up at 4:30. Nora was already in the barn. He could see her breath and Deck's breath making the same small clouds in the lantern light when he came through the barn door. And for a second, the image stopped him in a way he could not name and did not try to. "Temperature's going to stay below freezing through Wednesday," she said without turning around. She was checking the water buckets, running her hand through each one to feel for ice forming at the edges. "Water troughs in the north pasture are going to freeze hard by tomorrow morning." "I know," he said. "I'm going to run the heater lines today. I'll do the east side, you do the west." Not a question. A division of labor delivered the same way you'd say pass the coffee. Cole got his coat and they went to work. The day was 14 hours of frozen pipes, resistant cattle, iced-over gates, and the particular misery of working with bare hands in the cold because gloves made you slow and slow was something neither of them was willing to be. Lou made chili at noon and left it on the stove with a note that said, "Eat some of this before you both turn blue." They came in at 2 in the afternoon to eat standing at the kitchen counter because sitting down felt like giving in to something. Nora had a cut on her right hand from a piece of wire that had snapped back in the cold, on a clean slice across the heel of her palm, and she was ignoring it with the focused intention of someone who had made a decision about pain a long time ago and was not revisiting it. "That needs cleaning," Cole said. "It's fine." "It's not fine. It's bleeding on my kitchen floor." She looked down. There was a small dark spot on the linoleum. She looked at it with the expression of someone who finds the evidence mildly inconvenient. Cole went to the cabinet above the sink, got the first aid box, and set it on the counter. Nora looked at it, looked at him, did not argue. He cleaned the cut, which was deeper than she'd been treating it, and taped it closed with 2 butterfly bandages, while Nora ate chili left-handed and looked out the kitchen window at the gray sky. "You've done this before," she said. "Cleaned a cut? Worked through something you should have stopped for?" He thought about that. "Yeah," he said. "I have." She looked at him. Just looked. As that direct, no-performance look. "The ranch doing okay?" she said. "Financially." It was a question no one had asked him in 3 years. Not because people didn't wonder, but because people in Dustfall knew better than to ask Cole Harlan about his private business. Nora asked it the way she did most things, directly without apology. The way you ask a question when you need the actual answer and don't have time for the polite version. "It's fine," he said. "Better than fine. The cattle are good quality and the land is paid for. I'm not going to lose this place." "Good," she said. Went back to the chili. "Why?" he said. She scraped the bowl, set it in the sink. "Because it's a good ranch, and because Lou needs stable ground at his age, and because Decker is finally starting to trust something and it'd be a shame to uproot that." She looked at him one more time. "And because you've been holding this place together alone for too long and it's working, but it shouldn't have to be that way." Cole stood with the first aid tape in his hand. "Nora," he said. She pulled her jacket back on. East troughs are going to need checking again before dark, she said. I'll go. Nora. She stopped, her back to him, her hand on the door. The thing you carry, he said. That Elda mentioned. You don't have to. I know I don't have to, she said. That's why I'm still here. She went out. The door settled shut behind her. Cole stood in the kitchen with the first aid tape and the 2 dirty chili bowls and the sound of the freeze moving hard against the windows. And something that had been locked down in him for a long time, tight as a padlocked gate, shifted half an inch. Not open, not yet, but shifted. He found out about Wade Pritchard on a Wednesday. Salou came in from town with a supplies list done, and a look on his face that he brought inside and sat down at the table like it was an object. Wade Pritchard's been asking around about Nora, Lou said. Cole looked up from the ledger. Asking what? Asking how long she's been here. Asking if she's staying on permanent. Lou put the grocery bags down. Asking whether you and her have an understanding. The way Lou said the word understanding made it mean 3 things at once. Cole set his pen down. What did you say? He said. Said she was a hired hand and that was the ranch's business. Lou paused. He also asked Betty Calloway at the hardware whether Nora had been coming into town alone. Cole was quiet. Betty said no, Lou said. Because Betty knows exactly what Wade Pritchard's interest looks like, and she's got no patience for it. But Wade's planning on driving out here Friday. Said he had more questions about that water line. The water line I fixed Monday. Yes, Lou said. That one. Cole closed the ledger. He found Nora in the barn with Deck. She had the gelding tacked for the first time, not for riding, just standing with the saddle on him, letting him feel the weight and trust that nothing bad followed it. December was still, his ears moving, listening to something only he could hear. Wade Pritchard is coming Friday, Cole said. Nora adjusted the cinch and did not look up. Okay. He's been asking about you in town. A pause. Small. Barely there. What kind of asking? The kind that's not about the water line. She ran her hand along Deck's side, calm, steady, giving the horse her attention the way she gave most things her full attention before she gave them words. I've dealt with Wade Pritchards before, she said. Every county's got one. You're on my property, Cole said, which means it's my problem too. She looked at him then. Or held the look for 3 full seconds in that way she had. Is it? She said. It was not a challenge. It was a genuine question. The kind you ask when you need to know whether the ground under you is solid or whether you should be ready to move. Yes, Cole said. Deck shifted weight, leaned slightly into Nora's shoulder. She steadied him with a hand. All right, she said. That was all. All right. 2 words that meant she had heard him, and she was placing some fraction of the weight she carried onto a surface she was testing to see if it held. Friday came cold and clear. Wade Pritchard's truck came up the drive at 2 in the afternoon. Cole was on the porch. He had not made a plan to be on the porch. He had simply found himself there. Wade got out of the truck with his hat and his grin. Harlan, he said, that water line holding up? It's fine, Cole said. Fixed Monday. Good, or good. Wade looked around with a casual survey of a man who was looking for someone specific. Your new hand around? Wanted to ask her something about... She's working, Cole said. Wade looked at him. The grin adjusted itself. Just a quick word. She's working, Cole said again. Same tone, same flat delivery, information, not hostility. but the information was clear and it had edges. Wade stood there for a moment. The cold air moved between them. Somewhere in the north pasture, on one of the cattle made a sound. Deck was visible at the corral fence, watching Wade Pritchard with his ears flat in the particular way that animals have, of reading people more honestly than people read each other. "You got some kind of arrangement with her?" Wade said. "She works for me," Cole said. "That's the arrangement." "Because if she's just passing through..." "She's not," Cole said. The words came out before he finished deciding them. He heard them the same time Wade did. Wade looked at him with a new kind of attention. The grin settled back into something more genuine and more careful. "That's so," Wade said. "That's so," Cole said. Wade nodded slowly, put his hat back on his head, got back in his truck. The engine turned over and he backed down the drive without another word, because Wade Pritchard was many things. But he was not a man who pushed past a line once it had been drawn clearly. The truck disappeared. Cole stood on the porch. Nora came around the side of the barn. She had been at the corral the whole time, just out of sight, not hiding, not waiting, just working. She looked at him across the distance of the yard with that straight look. "She's not passing through," she said. "I know," Cole said. A beat. "I heard what you said to him," she said. "I know you did," he said. The wind moved through the post oaks at the edge of the property. December had dropped his ears back to their normal position, relaxed now and unbothered. Nora came up to the porch steps, stopped at the bottom, looked up at him. "I'm not easy," she said. "I carry things. I take a long time to trust. I work hard and I expect that back, and I don't fill silence with noise to make people comfortable." "I know," he said. "I'm telling you clearly," she said. "I know that too," he said. She stood on the porch steps, looking at him the way Deck had been learning to look at a saddle. Testing, measuring, and deciding whether the weight that followed would be bearable or not. "Slide in slowly," she said. And there was something in her voice that was not the flat working voice. Something lower and more careful. The voice you use when you're handing someone something that matters. "Seems you're too big, darling." Her eyes moved to Deck, who was now nudging the fence rail with his nose, looking to be let out. "Look, this horse has trust issues, and so do I, and you can't crowd either one of us, or we'll both bolt." Cole looked at her for a long time. "I'm not going to crowd you," he said. "I'm not going anywhere either." She looked at him. The land stretched out behind her, 1,200 acres of brown October grass and limestone ridge, and the sky that went on past the edge of anything. "Okay," she said. She went to let Deck out of the corral. Cole stayed on the porch and watched her walk, and thought about how the bunkhouse light had been a yellow square against the dark for 3 weeks, and how it had stopped feeling like something temporary sometime around the first freeze. He thought about how Deck let her ride him for the first time the next morning, easy as anything, like the horse had been waiting for the right person to ask correctly. He thought about Elda down near the New Mexico border saying, "Takes a while." He thought, last, about how a padlocked gate is not the same thing as a closed one. It just needs the right key. And the key, he was beginning to understand, was not a thing you found. It was a thing you became. Cole Harlan stood on his porch in the November cold and looked out at his 1,200 acres and the woman moving across them like she had always known the shape of this particular ground, and he let the silence be the right kind for the first time in 3 years. Not the absence of something, the presence of it.